Hello everybody, it's Jeremy again. I am back with another video for the Life by the Square Inch series here on the Erasmus Expeditions. Today I'm talking about steeping. I'll explain what that means here in just a minute, but basically what I'm talking about is sitting down whenever you're trying to come up with the genre or the tone for a session or a campaign and absorbing media that's of a similar ilk. So like you would with a tea bag, put into water so that it soaks up all of the juices and pulls all of the flavor out of it. That's a very similar thing to what I'm talking about. So it's immersing yourself in media of a similar genre or a tone to the game that you're trying to put together. And you kind of pull all of the bits and pieces that really define the genre or the tone for you in order to kind of imitate it for your game. So the one reason why I really stand by this method is because watching, listening, and reading media, whenever I have a particular game in mind and whenever I'm thinking about it, whenever I'm thinking about the media in relation to that game, I really start to kind of put the nuances into context. I start finding patterns of speech or terminology or the certain outlooks of NPCs and things like that that might exist in a setting. The terms that they use to describe things, the language that they speak in, the pacing of the storytelling that is typical for the genre, the kinds of descriptions for the locations and what people are wearing and what they may be carrying around with them. All of those kinds of things really are kind of brought into sharp focus whenever you're seeing examples of it. And you can easily cast aside the things that you don't like or that don't work and distill just the things that you do care for. And then it kind of goes into the tumbler with everything else from all the other media that you may be consuming and gets into kind of a personalized mixture, if you will. So one of the big things about this is that it does take a lot of time, and accessibility may be an issue. Obviously, money could be a cost issue, could be problematic for some people. It definitely takes a lot of time to sit down and invest hours on the end towards just the one campaign, especially if it's a one-shot or something. But if it's the kind of thing that you don't mind doing, it can be really rewarding. And personally, I tend to watch a lot of movies anyways, so I get a lot of mileage out of doing this. Now, specifically, I run a lot of very cinematic games, and so movies really are kind of a perfect method to do this for me. They're only a couple of hours a piece. Usually there's lots and lots of visuals and action scenes that you can kind of lift or take parts from. So things like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, things of that nature are lifesavers because there's tons and tons of material out there for relatively cheap. So those are some examples of how you can kind of implement this in your game. And I'm going to kind of show you some of the examples from games of my own. Now, this is a warning, there are spoilers. There are spoilers both for these games, those of them that are found online on the YouTube channel here, and there's also spoilers for the media that these are based upon, so be warned. The first up is in my Caldera campaign. This can be found on the channel here. I really needed the party to hate the villain. I really, really wanted them to have just this acerbic need to kill him in the very end. I really wanted that. So we had been watching Westworld, the first season, and there was a part that happened in that was absolutely brilliant. It completely caught me off guard, and it was such a great idea that I knew that I had to implement it somehow in the campaign. Now, for this particular instance, I stole the idea wholesale. So, spoilers warning again. There's a point where they fill a corpse, with nitroglycerin, and then shoot it and make it explode. So, I had all of the NPCs that had once been PCs in the Caldera campaign strung up by their necks for the party to find, done so by the villain. When they got close enough to inspect these bodies, they realized that they had been pumped full of nitroglycerin, just in time for a sniper to shoot one of them with a rifle and cause a massive explosion that caught the entire party in it. They were very upset about that. So it worked. The second example that I have is in my White Lotus Black Jade campaign, which cannot be found online. It was a home campaign. The ship from which you can see back behind me on the shelf. Sorry about the phone dinging. But Ashes of Heaven takes place in the same setting. So they're both Asian themed, these campaigns, and I personally was not very familiar with Eastern cinema and storytelling. There is quite a bit of difference between Eastern storytelling and Western storytelling. So in order to familiarize myself with it, I watched lots and lots of stuff that was on Netflix, wuxia films and kung fu movies and things of that nature. I really just dove in. There was also a fantastic audio book that was recommended to me by Chris Wilhelm that ended up helping quite a bit, showing kind of how fantasy could be worked in with Asian storytelling. So it really helped me to understand the culture and the folklore and the tropes and things that were different from the storytelling that I was used to. And so I really credit the time that I spent steeping in all of that media with the success that I feel that came from White Lotus Black Jade and now also from Ashes of Heaven. And the last example that I'm going to give is Chrome City. Now, Chrome City was already made, and I had already run a short campaign in it whenever the remake or sequel to Blade Runner came out, Blade Runner 2049. And I sat down and watched that, and I didn't really even have Chrome City, my Harbinger setting, in mind whenever I sat down to watch it. However, it definitely came up, and that really gave me the idea for the campaign that I'm currently running there, called The Inquisitor's Toll. Now, there's no spoilers about what's going to happen in that one, but Blade Runner really gave me a different angle to kind of look at my own setting. It really made me want to push that seedy element, the real dark and foggy grime beneath the surface aspect of Chrome City. And that way it's kind of, and just the idea of being able to become lost and be almost utterly alone in a city that is so overpopulated and crowded that you would think that would be impossible. Those were the kinds of things that really sparked the interest for the campaign that I'm running now. So yeah, that's basically steeping. That's really what I do whenever I'm preparing for a campaign. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a little bit of steeping to do, a little bit of research. So until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.